Following on from my What If Ben 10 was in My Hero Academia video, and with Season 2 of Dandadan just starting, I wanted to give my pitch for how you could incorporate a character like Ben Tennyson, along with his Omnitrix and however many of his alien transformations, into the slightly out there universe of Dandadan. We'll be including him in the story in a way that doesn't take the spotlight away from characters like Momo and Okarun. Instead, let's work Ben into the narrative of the series as a new member of the main cast. Dandadan, while tonally very different, being a show that revolves around ghosts, monsters, teenage romance and aliens, I feel Ben should be able to slot in quite nicely, seeing as that kind of loosely describes Alien Force as is. More so the alien side of things, but I think the line between alien and spirit may blur a little bit later on in this video. If you're unfamiliar with Dandadan, we'll quickly go over the general setting, but I'll functionally be writing the events of the series, just with the addition of Ben's character. Dandadan gets off to a great start. We're introduced to Momo after a brief scuffle and a breakup, then the soon-to-be-named Okarun, with Momo defending him from some bullies. The pair of them butting heads over Momo's belief in spirits and Okarun's belief in aliens, with the two of them challenging each other to sort of check out what the other believes in. But before that, and pretty fittingly of Ben, with Momo and Okarun being high school students, I'd assume Ben's in the same year level as our main cast, but maybe in another classroom over. We'd have Ben walking by the classroom as he overhears Momo giving the bullies a hard time. This being the first time he's ever really noticed Momo. As far as his relationship with Okarun, we'll say that they're friends outside of school, with a mutual interest in everything extraterrestrial. Ben being a bit more laid back about his interest in the topic versus a much more excited Okarun. But let's get into the inciting incident of the series. Momo now at an abandoned hospital looking for aliens, while Okarun's at an abandoned tunnel. To the shock of them both, they're both proven right, with Momo getting abducted by aliens and Okarun getting possessed by the spirit of Turbo Granny. And turns out Momo has spiritual powers that gives her all sorts of general abilities, but most notably psychokinesis. Okarun making his way to Momo, the pair of them defeating the aliens together, with the alien spaceship coming crashing down to Earth, and here's where we're going to introduce Ben. The two of them rescuing one another and really kicking off this budding romance, with Okarun giving his real name as Kentakura, the name of Momo's idol. Cutting to moments before the spaceship landed on Earth, we'll have Ben out for an evening bike ride, looking to the sky as he sees the soon-to-be crashed spaceship hurtling towards him. Ben leaping off the bike, narrowly escaping the blast. With Okarun and Momo chatting away on one side of the wreckage, Ben's on the other. The two of them heading off while, cut to the other side of the spaceship, Ben sees something in the wreckage, that being our Omnitrix stand-in. Seeing as the aliens of the series are looking to keep their species going and gather powerful resources, we'll have it that this is stolen technology they've gotten a hold of, wanting to use it to get their species put into the device to maintain their place in the universe, but more importantly, use it as a powerful weapon for themselves. At this point, you've seen the visuals of the show. Any of Ben's aliens we'll see from this point, picture them borrowing some design elements from Dandadan, being a bit more stylistic with blockier, more exaggerated proportions and details. I'm also picturing them with glowing eyes. Back to Momo's grandmother's house, Momo's using her spiritual abilities to suppress Okarun's curse before the pair of them were attacked by a giant sumo. This definitely could have been the moment to bring Ben into the story in a big way, but I fear replacing Okarun's big moment here. Speaking of, we get the reveal of Okarun's yokai transformation that's a pretty perfect blend of himself and the Turbo Granny spirit. With Okarun and Momo defeating the spirit monster, Momo passing out, and Turbo Granny now finally possessing Okarun fully, only to be taken care of quickly by Momo's grandmother, a spiritual medium. On that sumo fight, and just jumping back for a moment, if you did want to include Ben here and have him involved, I can certainly see a role for him in the sumo fight, especially with Ben's love of sumo slammers. You can see Ben going in his forearms or even maybe cannonbolt, trying to out-sumo the sumo spirit, being such a big fan of the Sumo Slammer series, really laying into him, but having Okarun come in with the save when Ben either gets overwhelmed or times out. But for the sake of sort of maintaining Okarun's big moment here, let's bring Ben into this now. We'd have a Ben catch wind of what's going on, seeing the two of them leave the crashed ship, and just as Momo passes out, he's already have Ben come into the story otherwise. Pulling up on his now slightly damaged bike, introducing himself to the now trapped but yet to be beaten Turbo Granny, and Momo's grandmother, Seiko. Either introduction works for me. One's more flashy and Ben-centric, and the other is a lot more in line with Dandadan and gives Ben a more supportive role. We get the reveal that Turbo Granny is so powerful because she feeds with another powerful curse, and Seiko wants the now trio not to fight her. Turbo Granny then manifests a bit and challenges them to come fight her in a tunnel where she's most powerful. We'll have Ben butt in for a moment here, with Turbo Granny flinching back when she sees the presence of the Omnitrix, sensing some powerful spiritual energy coming off of the device, calling it a curse unlike anything she's ever seen. Seiko then butts in pretty quickly, lifting Ben by his arm, getting a closer look at the Omnitrix, saying it's not beyond her, but it's not something she's dealt with before, at least not exactly. She says she has felt similar energy in the past, but for now she slaps a talisman on his forehead and tells him to be careful using that thing. I can definitely see a mention of Grandpa Max here. Maybe Ben quietly remarks about his Grandpa Max. Seiko, a bit off guard by this, asks what Ben's last name is, finding out he's Max Tennyson's grandson. She's then taken back a bit since her and Max used to know each other in some capacity. Cut to the three of them confronting Turbo Granny in her tunnel. She removes Okarun's curse for a moment before he gets it right back again. Which ends with Turbo Granny now fused with the Cramp Spirit, on top of a train about to head to the outskirts of town, which leaving that area and going through the barrier would release her spirit. Though in our version, rather than Turbo Granny not catching on to being taken out of her area until it's too late, something about Ben's expression would have given it away, sort of ruining it all. Her calling him a brat and going to attack him, Ben incidentally activating the Omnitrix for the first time. And due to all the spiritual energy in this area, we see a supercharged version of Ghost Freak, still in his grey form, wrapped with chains. Ben's sudden presence as Ghost Freak startling Turbo Granny, who he then goes on to restrain just long enough for the train to cross the threshold, releasing all the spirits. Later they all learn what made Turbo Granny this way, the four of them now honouring her and the lost spirits of those girls. Following an incidental kiss between the two of them, the school now thinks that Okarun and Momo are a couple, with Ben joining in, seeing the obvious tension between the two of them and egging them on. Back at Seiko's house, it turns out that Turbo Granny is still in Okarun, with Seiko pulling her out of him into a lucky cat doll. Not sure exactly how to explain this properly, but from this Okarun's lost his balls that are now out there as golden spheres, infused with Turbo Granny's aura, them now attracting powerful spirits. We're then introduced to classmate Ira, who's got a hold of one. There's a brief misunderstood scuffle here, and the introduction of the spirit Acrobatic Silky. So here, Okarun, Momo and Ben, let's go with Accelerate for the sake of keeping up with Okarun and being able to outmaneuver Silky, and after now with the combined effort of Ben and Okarun, turns into a pretty brief scuffle, which results in Ira dying, and the spirit Acrobatic Silky sacrifices herself in order to bring her back, with the then reveal of Silky's tragic life story prior to being a spirit, and Ira comes back to life as Silky fades away. I sort of skimmed over it, but there is a tension with Ira still on Momo, thinking she's a demon of some sort. Following that, Turbo Granny reattaches one of Okarun's balls, meaning there's only one to go. And here's where we'll make a sort of larger pivot in series. Rather than Ira falling for Okarun, we'll have her be after Ben, giving our main two characters some peace rather than the drama surrounding a love triangle. Instead, Ira's with Ben in the hallway when the aliens return, pinning Ben before he can activate the Omnitrix, with Ira tapping into her newfound spiritual powers, battling the Mantis Shrimp, distracting them and giving Ben just enough leeway to activate the Omnitrix, turning into grey matter, outmaneuvering the aliens until Okarun and Momo arrive on scene. The area floods, killing some of the aliens, but making the Mantis Shrimp ones stronger. Taking out Ira, with Ben transforming into Ripjaws, starts coming to blows with the now supercharged, fused Mantis Shrimp. Later on, the Mantis Shrimp comes back into the story. Now injured, he pleads with our main cast, giving us his background and how he just wants to help out his son. Back home and back to love triangles, Momo's first crush Gigi appears on scene. Gigi needing to stay with Seiko and Momo following his parents being hospitalized by spirits. But with Ben's inclusion, rather than the normal spirit we see being teased to ruin his life, that spirit he sees is Ghost Freak. With the later reveal that Ghost Freak's an alien spirit, that while trapped in the device, was exposed to so much spiritual energy in their exchange with Turbo Granny and her army of spirits earlier, has now been able to start using his now amped spiritual powers to affect people negatively outside of the area he's currently in, targeting Gigi as a possible future vessel for him to take over. The next day, a living atomical model man starts running about the place, with the cast mistaking a Christmas ornament for Okarun's golden ball. Then more Ghost Freak visions for Gigi, with Gigi, Momo, Okarun and now Ben for whatever reason, now all heading to Gigi's house, with Ben himself now having brief visions of Ghost Freak lashing out at him. Not wanting to alert the others and not wanting to freak anyone out, he doesn't mention it to anyone, not knowing it's the same spirit that's haunting Gigi. Momo goes off looking for answers, leaving the now three boys to their own devices, with Okarun and Gigi bickering over Momo, leaving Ben to play mediator between the two, trying to make them get along. And that's where season 1 wraps up and where we'll sort of wrap up the story of the video. It was a bit of a tricky one to balance here. I didn't want Ben to come in and totally derail the show and upstage or take away from too many powerful character moments, but I did really want to sort of sow some seeds, and it was quite tricky with that sumo fight, particularly, especially with Ben's background in sumo slammers. With introducing Ben to the series, I can sort of see some parallels between Dandadan and Alien Force, but in this instance, it's more as if we focused on Gwen and Kevin's relationship and everything going on there, with Ben being a more supportive character role. When I first started this, I thought maybe it'd be tricky to bring a character like Ben into a series with such a heavy focus on romance, but it's not like romance is an entirely foreign concept of Ben 10, it's just that Ben is rather hit and miss as far as all that goes. If you're unfamiliar with Dandadan, my ramblings aside, it's a phenomenal series with such gorgeous visuals, the lighting, the animation, just how stylized it all is. It's certainly odd, but that's part of the charm for me at least. And there's that great intro. All that aside, if you've made it this far into the video and aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. Either way, I appreciate you being here. And for those of you who've maybe followed the channel for a while, I hope you've noticed I've got a new microphone. Thanks for watching.